Hi, my name is Jennifer Howard, and today I'm going to be discussing a topic that I like to call How to Make It Work with Enneagram Type 9, which is a video that talks about different things that you can do if you are in a relationship with a Type 9 in order to make the relationship more functional and improve communication. So, I am married to a Type 9. My mother was a Type 9. My brother is a Type 9. I've most of my serious relationships with men that I've had, they've all been nines. Nine has been intentionally and unintentionally just a pretty constant Enneagram theme in my life. So I'm just drawing on literally, I'm 29 years old. I'm drawing on 29 years of experience with type 9 and just things that I've noticed that I think will help you improve your relationship with them. Okay. So I would say, first of all, nines are going to be a good choice for you if you're someone that just doesn't like drama in the instance that you get to choose. For example, if it's somebody that you're just in a romantic relationship with or your friends or things like that, but sometimes you have to relate to nines that you weren't planning on relating on. Sometimes you have a child that's a nine or a parent or a sibling or somebody that you work with that's a nine, and you kind of have to learn how to make that work. But by and large, if you have any choice over the relationship, if you're like a no drama person and you are the chillest person and you're like, I'm kind of tired of dealing with all this crap, I want to take my life easy, that sort of a thing, a nine is going to be a really, really good choice for you because that's pretty much how they live their entire life. And they have got the most laid back and relaxed nature about them. And one of the things that I love most about type 9, and one of the reasons that I think I tend to be attracted to them, like in a romantic sense, is that, like, for example, I'm a 6, and so I am one of the more fairly high strung and high maintenance types. And so I engage in those behaviors because on some level I believe that they work for me. But I have to be honest, as I've studied the Enneagram all these years and as I continue to live life, guys, I've just noticed that I get tired and all of the control that I used to want to have, I just don't even care anymore. I am so about living a drama-free life right now that it's not even funny. And nines are really the only people that I have in my life where I can find that. Everybody else has to make an issue of something. Some people make issues out of lots of things, but nines are the only people that I know that I can go to, and I know that, for nines, it's like the relational rule with them could be, if you don't start nothing, there won't be nothing. And that's true for them. They're certainly not going to start anything, I can assure you. So as long as you're chill and you're not, impeding on them in any way, things are going to be totally cool. They're all right. You know what I mean? They will let so much stuff go and they will tolerate so much stuff that other people won't tolerate in you. And I absolutely love that about them. It's so natural to feel safe with them, emotionally. That this is someone that's not going to be really picky about your behavior. It's not someone that's going to chastise you every time you do something that may be different than what they would do, that kind of thing. They're just super chill, no drama people. I love it. So I would say, first off, if you are in a relationship with someone that's a nine, I just want to call your attention to that, and I hope that you are appreciative of that because there is no place else in the world that you're going to go to find that, and it's true. So appreciate that. Sometimes I know being married to a nine, I don't mean this in a negative way. It's just the only words that I have, but it can kind of get um, when things are real peaceful and they're quiet for a little while. I have a 7 wing, so I kind of like excitement and change and adventure every now and again. And nines aren't naturally good at delivering that. So I know sometimes maybe if you're in a relationship with a nine and you kind of value the high energy every now and again, sometimes it can be frustrating to be in that relationship because they're not going to deliver that. So you have to be the one that brings that into the relationship. They'll follow along with you. They're just not going to initiate that. That doesn't come from them. So you have to know that you're going to be the person that is injecting the relationship with energy. If look, I'm just saying, like, if you're going to go to counseling, it'll be because you suggest it, not them. If you are going to pack up your stuff on the fly and go and do something, it's probably going to be because you suggested it, not them. And of course, that's not for every case. There are going to be exceptions to that. But by and large, nines just tend to be pretty chill, you know. But they're so willing to go along with you and do what you want to do. Again, as long as it doesn't encroach directly on their sense of independence, and as long as it doesn't make them emotionally uncomfortable, they're cool. They don't care. They're down for whatever. You know, they'll just go and spend time with you just to spend time with you. And that's really awesome. It's one of the things that I absolutely love about nines. It's fantastic. So if you have that, be thankful, okay? That's my first point. If I was going to say, just as a second point, when you're in a relationship with a nine, I have had a lot of couples that I have seen that come to me, and we do consultation sessions for this exact reason. Probably the most common thing that I'm approached with different couples is it's a couple where one of them is a nine and the other one's not, and it's the other one that initiated the sessions, and they are frustrated because they feel like they're doing all of the work in the relationship and the nine spouse or partner is not. And they'll come to me and they're like, I need you to make, to make him see or to make her see that they're not doing their part in the relationship and I'm doing everything, and they don't do anything. And so I'm going to say this to you. If you're not the nine and you're in a relationship with a nine and you relate to that, yeah, that's going to happen. And it's not because the nine that you're in a relationship with is lazy. So please don't think that. And it's not because they don't care. It's because they are so laid back and they just don't get worked up about a lot. I mean, guys, things have to get really bad relationally before a nine is going to rise to the occasion and take immediate action and do what they need to do to fix the problem. Okay. In most instances, with the best of intentions, nines are just, they're just thinking, this really isn't that big of a deal. If I just let it go and let it blow over, everything will be okay tomorrow. And in their mind, they believe that that's how it works. They don't understand that there are deeper relational issues that pile up and pile up and pile up that need to be handled. And so there is a reality that you have to face if you're going to be in a relationship with a nine. And again, I don't care what the relationship is, whether you chose it or whether it was forced on you, okay? You need to understand that if you're unhappy in the relationship or if it's not working, you're probably going to have to be the one that instigates that change. So if you're in a relationship with a nine, you need to be a good initiator, okay? I know that in my marriage with my husband and with the men that I've dated in the past that have been nines, I always wound up being the initiator for that relationship. Well, no, they didn't actually. My husband asked me out, but I think all of the other guys that I dated that were nines, I actually asked them out. Because I could tell that they kind of liked me and they just weren't doing anything about it. And so I got sick of waiting and I was like, well, I'm just going to ask you out because you're not doing it. So I know that that's a frustration for me. I mean, guys, even things like, and I'm not at all trying to make anybody uncomfortable when I say this, but I've noticed even with like having sex with nines, I'm almost always the one that has to initiate that as well, because they just don't initiate. They're kind of like, they're just sitting there and they're waiting on me to do something. And again, it's not in every case. And I would think that if you're a male nine, you're probably more apt to initiate, especially sexually, than a female nine. I would also think that if you're a nine with an eight wing, you're more apt to initiate sexually than a nine with a one wing, for example. Anyways, but I'm just saying you need to be prepared to be the person that initiates the change in the relationship. You're going to, I mean, you just are. I'm sorry. I know that that can be frustrating, but have patience with them because they just don't see life the way that you see it. They sometimes have a hard time realizing how serious things actually are. I mean, sometimes this is so terrible, and I'm not telling you to do this. Please don't do this because it's not okay. But it's in the past to get my husband's attention, to let him know that I wasn't happy. I've had to say things like I'm filing for a divorce. And then all of a sudden he rises to the occasion and does what he has to do and is willing to go to counseling and all of this stuff. Whereas before, it's not that he didn't care, it's just that he would dismiss it because he couldn't yet understand that it was more serious than it appeared to be, right? So you have to know going into a relationship with a nine that, again, you're going to be the initiator most of the time, so be prepared for that. And you are going to have to sometimes work with them to help them understand when something is in, to an extreme, because they downplay everything. It's not that bad. It'll be okay. She'll get over it tomorrow. He'll get over it tomorrow. It was just one fight. It's not a big deal. Whatever. I don't care. So you sometimes have to say to them, no, this is a big deal. And they're going to give you a lot of pushback on that, not direct pushback. They'll do the thing where they placate you and they act like they're listening and that they're agreeing with you, but they have absolutely no intention of accepting what you say is truth. And so you're going to have to, stand your ground there, but just know that that may be something that you have to do if you're in a relationship with them. I mean, it's just how it is, okay? I would say if you're having a hard time emotionally connecting with the 9 that you're interacting with, I did a video on making it work with type 7, and a lot of what was in that video could also be applied to type 9, I think. 9s have a hard time dealing with the emotionally uncomfortable stuff. They'll do it if they have to, but it's kind of like, oh, I don't want to talk about this. Why do we have to have this discussion again? Can we just forget it and let it go? It's over with. Because it's just emotionally uncomfortable. They don't want to go back and hash through all this stuff, right? They don't want to do it. So if you are hoping to get the 9 that you're in relationship with to engage with you, especially about emotionally uncomfortable topics, first of all, I'm going to tell you, you need to have a lot of patience, because it's going to take some time to draw them into that and get them to stay. And it's going to take a lot of time to get them to give you like really focused attention there. Even if they go into it with you the first time, they're probably only going to half listen because it's just uncomfortable for them to fully be there. They have a hard time giving their attention to entirely to one thing at a time. That's a pretty typical 9 thing. So you're going to have to be patient with them. You may have to say things more than once, that kind of a thing. But I would just encourage you to have lots of patience, create an emotionally safe atmosphere. I do want you to understand this. If they think, even for one iota of a second, that expressing how they feel to you is going to put them in a situation where they are antagonized by you or attacked by you or rejected by you, or if you take those emotions and the things that they say and you're going to use it against them, they're not going to open up and share shit. They will lie until the end of days, because in their mind, it's better to lie about how they feel and to tell you that everything's fine when it's not, than to be emotionally honest with you and have that used against them. Do you know what I mean? If that makes any sense. So again, be patient, be an emotionally safe place. You need to be someone that is strong enough in your own individuality to hear what they say to you without taking it personally. They should be able to tell you when they're angry at you. They should be able to tell you when you've offended them, when you've hurt them, when you've scared them, without you taking it personally. Okay, if they think you're going to take it personally and overreact to it, they're not going to tell you. They'll just suck it up, and they'll do what I like to call the walk it off response, which is where they just suck it up and they keep going and they don't even address it. They just pretend it never happened, because that's easier for them than dealing with the backlash of having expressed a negative emotion, which was already hard enough for them to directly deal with anyway. So be really, really patient with them. Give them space to express what they need to express, okay? Try to refrain from using language like, well, this is what you should have done, and this is how you should feel, and you should have told me then, or why couldn't you have just done that, or why didn't you do this, or this is just what you're going to have to do whether you like it or not. You may have valid points and you may be right, but there's a way that you communicate that to type 9, and there's a way that you don't do it, and that's definitely the way that you don't do it. That to a type 9 is usually perceived as nagging, and to be fair, it probably is nagging, even if you're not intending it to be. And that right there, they are going to shut down so fast. I mean, they're gone. They're not even mentally present for your conversation anymore. So it's so frustrating, because I know for me it is, because when there's like a relational problem with my marriage, I'm the sort of person that wants to just like hop on it. Let's pull it apart. Let's examine it. Let's figure out what the problem is. Let's come up with things that I can do and things that you can do. to change this so that we don't have to have this problem again. And my husband is just so much slower at getting on board with all of that. He'll go through the same process that I do, but it's just so much slower for him because it takes him longer, first of all, to acknowledge that there is a problem, to realize the severity of the problem, to be willing to acknowledge his own emotions in the situation, to be willing to acknowledge how he contributed to the problem, to be willing to listen to me tell him about how he hurt me, to be willing to apologize for what he's done, to be willing to sit down and examine the steps that we could take to make it better. All of those things are components to growth in a marriage, and nines are just slower at that than most other people. So just know that, okay? Be patient. I would also say that I want to go back and touch on the nagging thing. Another common thing that I tend to see in relationships between nines and other people is, and granted, some of this is on the nine, but it's like if you want them to do something and you ask them to do it once, great. If you ask them to do it twice, in their mind, you're nagging, they shut down, they don't want to hear it. It's kind of like for a nine, it's like, stop putting all this pressure on me. I heard you the first time, I'm going to do it when I'm ready to do it. Stop harping on me. They don't like it. Especially I've noticed if it's a man, that is especially bothersome to him. And again, it's understandable, but sometimes, I mean, you'll have nines that, again, it goes both ways. You know what? If you said that you're going to do something, you need to do it. And that's true of everybody, not just nines. And it's true. One of the more underdeveloped aspects of being a nine is that they tend to overpromise and underdeliver because it's easier in the moment to tell you what you want to hear to get you to leave them alone than it is to just be honest and say, you know what, I don't want to do that, or I don't have time for that today, because then that invites, what could be, again, I call it the backlash. It invites an opportunity for you to say, well, what do you mean you don't want to do it? I do all this stuff for you. You don't want to do one thing for me, or, whatever it is that they fear you may come back at them with that they just don't want to deal with. So I'm not saying that you should not approach them with what you want. If they made a commitment to you and they're not keeping up with that commitment, you have every right to go back to them and hold them to their word. They need to learn how to be held accountable for that, regardless of whether or not it's comfortable. That's called life and it's called being an adult. That's true for everybody. So I'm not telling you to back off of that. But what I am telling you is to examine the manner in which you do that. Definitely approach them, but approach them with gentleness and with patience. Try to assume the best motives of them. Don't just assume that it didn't get done because they don't care about you or because they're lazy or they're selfish. Go back to them and say, hey, I don't know, maybe you forgot. I kind of asked you, you remember yesterday I needed you to do this. Do you know when you'll be able to get around to that? Something like that. And let them give you a response. You know what I mean? Um, so anyways, just some advice there, because they don't respond well to constant nagging. Definitely don't make it personal. You know what I mean? The more personal it gets, the more they're going to shut down, the more they're going to placate you to tell you what you want to hear without having any intention of delivering what you actually asked them for. So don't make it personal. Be really nice, be gentle, be slow. You know, you may have to come to a place where you realize that there's just certain things that if you want it done and you want it done now, you need to do it. An example of this in my marriage with my husband is sometimes, like, I'll be really really busy, like if I'm sitting at the computer and I'm working on maybe like a paper, a research paper that I have to write for a class, for my degree that I'm pursuing. I'll be in the middle of a train of thought or something, and I'll think, oh, I need this book for this reference point. And so I'll say to my husband, hey, can you go grab such and such book off of the bookshelf real quick for me, please? And he'll say, yeah, sure, I'll go get it. And he sits there. And so I'll tell him, I'm like, I kind of needed it now. And he'll like, oh, okay, no problem, I'm going. And he's still sitting there. And so I'm like, okay, the whole reason, I'm thinking this, I'm like, the whole reason I asked you to do it is because I'm in the middle of a paragraph and I'm in a train of thought and I don't want to stop it because I'm afraid I won't be able to pick it back up when I come back. So I wanted to kind of just finish the thought without having to get up, but I need this book to get this research point out of it to finish the thought. I need you to kind of go now because sitting here just waiting is kind of ruining my train of thought. In which case, I could have just gone up and gotten it myself. So I'll wait, because I don't want to nag him, and he sits there and he's on his phone and he's scrolling, still scrolling. I'm at the computer, just kind of like, and I just get up and go get it. And I'll get up and go get it, and I'll sit back down. I won't say one word, and he'll look up and he'll see that I've got it, and he'll go, "Oh, I'm sorry." I'm just saying it drives me crazy too, but you may have to get to a point where you're just going to have to accept the fact that, I mean, there's stuff that you just may want to just do for yourself. There are certain things I'm like, and it's nothing against him. He's a fantastic guy. He really is, but he's also human. And I've just gotten to a place in our marriage where it's like, if it's just a matter of I want something that's on the counter over there, or I need to pick that up, or I need to go drop this off somewhere, you know what? I'm just going to do it. It's easier. By the time he gets around to doing it, I could have already done it 10 times. So I could have already gotten that done and then 9 other things done. So I'm not going to even waste the energy that it takes to ask and have the conversation and stay here and make sure that he does it. I'm just going to go do it and just get it done. And again, it's nothing against him. It's just how it is. And so I'm saying if you're in a relationship with a 9, you may have to just accept the fact that that may be a reality for you as well. So in either that is or is not something that's going to work for you. You need to decide that. If it's not going to work for you, and this 9 that you're in a relationship with isn't willing to, to rise to the occasion and do what they need to do, this may be a relationship that just doesn't work for you, which is fine, you know. But if they're willing to work on it and, make strides in changing that behavior, that's fantastic. Definitely stay with them and work with that. It's great. I would say too, to that point, in terms of like changing behavior, if you're in a relationship with anybody, I don't care if it's someone that you work with or if it's your child or, someone that you're married to, it doesn't matter. Every now and again, they're going to do something that you don't like, and it's inevitable that you're going to discover as that relationship progresses that they have behavioral patterns that you may find them annoying, you may find them offensive, you may find them hurtful. Those things happen. I mean, it's called life and it's just part of human relationships. So this is another thing that I would say. They're slow moving people just in general. You can approach them about something that they're doing that's not working for you, something that they genuinely do need to change. And you need to understand that probably out of all of the types on the Enneagram, I would say type 9 is the type that's probably going to demonstrate the slowest rate of change. And it's so frustrating sometimes because sometimes when someone isn't changing as quickly as we want them to, I think it's easy for us to say, well, they're not changing at all. I know that in my marriage, I really, really struggle with that with my husband. I'll say to him, for 6 months, we've had this problem, and I've told you for 6 months that this is what you're doing to contribute to it, and I'm doing everything I can to change my part in this, and I feel like I've made really big strides, and yet you're still here stuck on square one. And it's so frustrating for me. And it's scary sometimes because it can look like they don't care and it can look like they're not trying to do their part. So you just need to understand that in all likelihood, that's probably not the case. They're just very slow moving people. They do not adjust to behavioral changes as quickly as perhaps you or I would. So again, you have to have grace for that. You have to be, I know I said it at the beginning, and I'm going to say it again because this point is just so key. If you're going to be in a long-term intimate relationship with someone that's a 9, you have to be patient. You just have to be. Plato once said that he once said never to discourage progress that an individual is making, no matter how slow, because even the tiniest bit of progress is better than no progress at all. And some people just progress at a different rate than others. And I thought of type 9 when I read that, and it's very applicable to type 9. And so I would just tell that to you. Don't be discouraged because they're moving slowly. If they're not moving at all and they're just refusing to admit their part in the relational problems that you have, you need to consider perhaps whether or not this relationship is going to work for you, because they've got to be mature enough to say, I did this and I contributed in this way and I need to change in this way. They can or they can't do that. And if they can't, you can make all the improvements that you want to, and it's not going to get any better. Both people are going to have to do what they have to do to make that relationship better. But I would just say if you're in a relationship with a type 9 and they're making those strides, I would encourage you to stick with it, no matter how frustrating it is. And even if they're not progressing as quickly as you feel that they are, you know, I know for me, I'm an INFJ, so just personal development is a really big deal to me anyway. I have this motto. I've always said every 365 days, every year, I should be able to look back, and the person that I was on this day last year should be a completely different person than who I am today. If that's not the case, I've done something wrong. I should never become static. Do you know what I mean? And so in my relationship with my husband, who is a 9, it's been interesting because I've kind of had to deal with this because I look back every year and it's like I've had some years where the changes in my behavior have been so drastic that I'm like, wow, I don't even recognize the person that I was a year ago. I don't know how I was even surviving my life like that. Who I am now is so much stronger and so different. And then I look at my husband and I'll say, he's still pretty much the same. I mean, I don't see any difference in him even over the past 5 years. And it can be alarming to me, um, because it looks like he's not making any progress. So I would say just don't assume that they're not making progress in your relationship and in their self-development just because you don't see it. Sometimes with 9s, I think you really have to look at it, or you look for it. And keep in mind, 9s are very internalized people. They internalize everything. They keep their opinions to themselves, because they don't want to cause any turmoil or get, attacked for what they believe or what they think. They keep their emotions to themselves because they're, again, same thing. They don't want to be attacked or antagonized for what they feel. A lot of times they keep their preferences and what they want to themselves because they believe that voicing those things isn't going to change anything anyway, so why bother? They've lived their lives being people that just naturally internalize what they feel, what they think, what they believe. So their entire, existence of living is inside of here. And so I think that because that's just their habitual way of being in the world, that their progress is internalized as well. I think that they probably spend more time doing things like changing thought patterns and maybe working with their emotions on their own without necessarily reaching out for help. So they can be doing a lot of things to help progress themselves and to help themselves develop as people, but it's just not apparent on the outside because they've internalized the work that they do. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just saying, don't give up on them if it looks like nothing's changing. Okay, just stick with it. If they're giving you some progress, it's worth sticking it out. That's my opinion. Anyways, you need to know that 9s can be indecisive. This is actually kind of a funny component to my relationship with my husband because outside of type 9, the other Enneagram type that's probably the most indecisive is type 6, which is me. And oh my gosh, man, my husband and I, we're terrible. Like, how we come to decisions in this family amazes me to this day. Every time a decision has to be made, it's like a fight. And it doesn't surprise me because it's like, he really doesn't have a preference most of the time unless it's something just like super serious. But most of the time he doesn't have a preference. He's like, oh, I don't know, whatever you want to do. And I'm scared. I know what my preference is, but I'm scared to say it because if I say it and he doesn't like it, then I'm scared he's going to get mad at me or blame me because he's not happy. You know what I mean? Or if I pick something and it turns out to be like a total dud or a bad idea, he's going to blame me. you know what, and I don't want to be the person that has to shoulder the responsibility and the guilt for making the bad decision. So I'm not saying anything, you need to pick that kind of a thing. So we're both just stupid, unhealthy in our numbers that way. And I mean, guys, I'm telling you, it is a miracle that my husband and I like eat. You know what I mean? I'm serious, man. The most dangerous question you can ask in this household is, what do you want for dinner? You can forget it. My husband's like, oh, anything. I don't care. Whatever you want. And I know what I want for dinner, but I'm scared to say it because I'm like, what if he doesn't like that? Then here's what he'll do. He won't tell me no. So if I say I want, like, whatever, chicken Alfredo, and he's going to say, if he doesn't want that, he won't say it. He'll say, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that sounds good. I'll eat that, even if he doesn't want it. And so I will stand in there and make it and go to all this trouble, and I'll get it ready, and I'll bring him his plate, and he'll sit down. He'll take 2 bites, and he'll say, well, I'm full, so I'm done. I'm just gonna like just put this in like a Tupperware, put it in the fridge, okay? And if you want to eat it tomorrow for lunch, you can. And I learned after a while, I was like, you were just talking about how hungry you are. And I said, do you want this? And you said, yes. And now you're not eating it. And for a while, I was trying to figure out like what the deal was. Um, I didn't know what was he like a closet anorexic person? And I didn't know. I don't know. And then I figured out one day, I'm like, I think he didn't want my choice and he just didn't want to tell me that he didn't want it. So he just pretended to want it and then ate a couple bites to, satisfy me or what he thought was satisfying me. You know, he was just placating me. But it made me mad. I'm like, if you didn't want it, tell me so we could pick something else. I mean, we could come to a compromise. I just wasted all this food and all this time that I sat in there and made this. And you had no intention of eating it anyway. Oh, it frustrates me. So, anyways, it's just a miracle that we eat in this house. That's just an example. So be prepared to deal with that. It would be really helpful if you're a really decisive person, if you're going to be in a relationship with type 9. Again, as long as your decisions don't encroach on them and encroach on their freedom or make them emotionally uncomfortable, they're pretty much going to go with whatever you want. They really don't care. They're pretty chill people, which is one of the reasons why they're so awesome. So if you can be a decisive person, it's great. I need to take my own advice. I just need to get the courage to just say what I want. I don't tell people what I want because I'm scared, they're not going to like it and they're going to be like, oh, well, you know, it was stupid. I don't know. I need to get over it. Anyways, so that's another point. I'm gone like way over on this one. So just some points for type 9. Um, Guys, you know the drill. Comments, questions, whatever, down there. Thanks.